Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're looking at the new 3D tools in Adobe Illustrator and some of the problems associated with using them. So I have a brand new document here on the screen with some 3D objects. These two 3D objects here are created using the old tools in Adobe Illustrator, which are still available. And these are created using the new tools. And while it might look like this is really spectacular, it's got a whole lot of issues that it brings to the party. So firstly, let's look at things like where is the new tool and where are the old tools. If you go to Window and then 3D and Materials, you're going to get the new panel. But if you want to continue to use the old 3D effects, you can still do so. They're available here through the Effect menu. You'll go to 3D and Materials and go down to 3D Classic, where you'll find your Extrude and Bevel, Revolve and Rotate Classic options. So just be aware that just because they're not available on this window menu, you've still got all the old tools available to you. You've also got them available to you at the foot of the Appearance panel. So if you had a shape selected, you could come down here and choose FX and then 3D Materials, and you get access to all your classic features. So it's important to be aware that you can still use the old tools as well as the new ones. Now, one of the really big differences we're going to see when we actually create a 3D circle like this or 3D sphere like this in a minute is that the results of using these two are different. Well, obviously, we're getting a very different result on a half sphere, and this one looks really good. This one doesn't look very good at all. This is a sphere created from half a circle using the old tool, and this is the new one. The old tool makes it much easier to add materials to your shape, and also when you expand it, you get an actual set of vector shapes. When you use the new tool, you don't. You're just getting an image. And so if you want to be able to get access to the elements that make up a 3D object, you're going to have to continue to use the old tool. The new one, as I said, it just gives you an image, so it just makes everything rasterized. The other thing with the new tool is that it uses up a lot of processing power. I have a brand new, really well configured machine, and I can hear the fan running when I'm doing some of the 3D shapes. So you'll want to be working on really small shapes, or you could easily crash your computer. Obviously, you should have everything closed that you don't need to have open if you are working with the new 3D tools and if your computer is struggling. So now that we can see how things look in the old and the new versions, I'm actually just going to turn these 3D effects off so you can see that the two starting shapes were identical. The new version gives us this effect, and this is about the best I can do with the old version. Again, these are both the same starting shape. I get different results with the new tool and the old one, but the new one is not necessarily better. Let's close this down and have a look at creating a 3D shape using the new tools. So I have a circle here. It has no stroke. It does have a fill. I'm working on a document that is 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. So this particular object is 444 by 444. That's still pretty big for this new 3D effect. I'm going to select over this anchor point here and delete it. So I have half a circle. I'll select my shape and we're going to apply the new 3D effects. I'll go to Window, 3D and Materials. So this is our new panel. I'm going to start with Object here and I'm going to use Revolve, which is what you would typically use to create a sphere. And this is exactly what would have happened in the old tool. So not that anything's going wrong here. It's just that our offset direction is set to left edge. Let's make it right edge and we get a sphere. So we can change the revolve angle. So if you don't want it to revolve quite so much, you can change that. And there is also an offset for creating things like donuts. But we're going to make a sphere. You get a number of rotation presets. This panel can be opened and closed by just clicking its disclosure triangle here. I'm using off-axis front right now, but you can change to off-axis back or any of these other options. You have isometric options as well, and they can be customized by just selecting your own settings here. Let's go back and just do front. That'll do for now. This setting is going to have a lot more of an effect on other shapes. For the sphere that we're creating, basically we're just getting a sphere and it's looking pretty much the same regardless of what settings we're using. In materials, we can set the material. So you've got a whole lot of materials you can use here. I'm just going to settle with this color, but you can experiment with materials. What I do want to look at down here is the base properties. So you can open that again with its disclosure triangle and you get a roughness. So I'm going to set the roughness way down low. So this is going to get a more shiny look. But as you can see, it doesn't look shiny at all right now. Well, that's because it hasn't been rendered. So I'm just going to click up here to render the object with ray tracing. And you can see now we've got a much more shiny object. Let's go across to lighting and we can change the lighting here. So I can change it to my preferred position. I prefer mine to come in from the top left, but you can select whatever you like. You can change the color of your light if you want to. You can make it more or less intense. I'm going to make it a little bit less intense here. You can rotate the light around by just dragging on the rotation option, and you can change its height so it's higher or lower on your shape. You can also adjust its softness, and I am going to adjust its softness to make it a softer and more pleasing light, but I might change its height a little bit so it's still a bit shiny. We can just tweak those settings. And then we have the shadows option, and again that can be opened or closed using its disclosure triangle. I'm going to turn my shadows on. And then we get two settings for shadows. We can have it behind the object or below the object. I'm going to settle for below the object. And because I've got front, I'm not actually seeing it. So let's just go to the object and let's choose something like off-axis front. And that will give us a better idea when we're working with shadows. So I've got my shadow below the object, but let's see what it would look like behind the object. I can also set the distance from the object and wait until it renders. Now you'll see that the rendering is coming over the edge of the image, and that is a really big problem with this shadow effect. You have to have the shadow bound set high enough so that you can actually see your shadow, and you may find, depending on the size of your object, that your shadow just gets cut off. Again, this is a far from perfect tool, this new 3D tool. Not sure I like it in particular, but it does give you some nice shiny objects if that's what you want and if you're prepared to deal with the fact that they expand out to regular images. So if I bring the shadow bounds in here, you'll see that the shadow just gets cut off. So if your shadow is getting cut off, you're going to need to increase your shadow bounds. So there is my new shiny object. It looks really good, but as I said, it is going to render very differently. Let me just select that and turn my 3D and materials on and off so I can see what we've got from applying that 3D effect to the shape. Now let's have a look and see what happens when we expand it. Going into my layers panel here, you can see that I have my shape here, which is my half circle with the 3D effect applied to it. Nothing too special there. With it selected, if I go to Object and then Expand Appearance, things start to behave very, very differently. I'm going to open up my little panel in here and you can see that this is an image. It is just a raster image. It's like a photograph or something that you've imported as a JPEG file. So just be aware that the new 3D tools in Adobe Illustrator, as cute as they might make some of these shapes, don't have anywhere near the same effect when you expand your object as you did with the older 3D tools. And if you're watching videos online, you can still get access, of course, to those old 3D tools. And in a lot of cases, you're going to want to because the effects that you can create are just so much more sophisticated. Before we finish up here, I have more Illustrator training at Skillshare.com, including lots of 3D classes. When you sign up for Skillshare, you get access to thousands of classes there, including over 270 of mine. In the description below, you'll find a Skillshare coupon, which is at least as good as the current Skillshare offer, and typically mine will be better. I also have Illustrator training at Udemy.com, and you'll find a referral link to every one of those classes in the description below. Please feel free to share these with family, friends, and co-workers. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something about Illustrator of which you were unaware. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be alerted when new videos are released. Until next time, my name's Helen Bradley. Thank you so much for joining me here on my YouTube channel.